So, when you hear the word kinesiology, it's super easy to immediately default to sports, right? Maybe you picture a coach analyzing a throw or an athlete sweating it out on a treadmill. But if you think this field just kind of stops at the edge of the gym, well, you're missing the true scope of human movement. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly expansive nature of human movement. It's a field that's older, broader, and honestly, far more deeply ingrained in our biology than most people realize. I mean, it literally touches everything you do, from the second you wake up to the moment your head hits the pillow. Here is a quick roadmap for our journey today. First up, the science of movement. Next, we'll get into defining physical activity. Third, we're going to trace the history of human movement. Fourth, we'll explore the mind-body connection. And finally, we'll look at a really surprising frontier for this whole field, esports. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the science of movement. Beyond the gym. Kinesiology is a vast scientific discipline. Sure, it definitely includes teaching and coaching, but it's also the foundational science for exercise physiologists, occupational therapists, prosthetists, you name it. At its absolute core, kinesiology is the scientific study of human body movement. It tackles the physiological, biomechanical, and psychological principles of exactly how our bodies operate. And the name actually makes perfect sense when you look at its roots. It comes straight from the Greek words kinesis, which means movement, and logos, meaning study. Researchers in this field are using motion tracking, measuring brain waves, the whole shebang, really, just to understand the mechanics of a single step. Moving right along to Section 2. Defining physical activity. Categorizing how we move. To really wrap our heads around this field, we have to recognize that words like movement, activity, and exercise actually have incredibly nuanced differences. Physical activity is the broad umbrella. It's defined as any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that burns calories. Basically, if you're moving and burning energy, you're doing it. Exercise, on the flip side, is a very specific subcategory. It's planned, structured, and repetitive movement done specifically to boost or maintain physical fitness. So here's the kicker. All exercise is physical activity, but definitely not all physical activity is exercise. That's a huge aha moment for a lot of people when they look at their own daily routines. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how physical activity is broken down into 4 distinct domains. Notice the domestic domain first. Doing household tasks like vacuuming or even just clearing the dishes. Yep, that actively counts. Then there's transportation, like biking or walking to work. Occupational covers the physical exertion you do at your job. Maybe you're hauling heavy boxes or lifting weights. And finally, leisure time, which is what we usually think of, right? Swimming, hiking, or hitting the gym. Every single time you move, you are participating in one of these 4 domains. All right, Section 3, History of Human Movement, from survival to sport. Our Paleolithic ancestors certainly didn't have gym memberships, right? And they definitely weren't working out for fun. They moved to survive. They ran to chase down their next meal. And literally, no exercise meant no food. But as agriculture developed and we all got a bit more sedentary, human movement evolved. By the 4th century BCE, Greek physicians like Herodotus and Hippocrates started recognizing that since we no longer had to hunt, we needed vigorous exercise as an actual medical treatment. Jumping ahead to 1813, the very first physiotherapy school was founded in Sweden. A graduate of that system, a guy named Niels Posey, actually brought the term kinesiology over to the US in 1886. And skipping forward to the 1970s, the passage of Title IX in the US was a complete game changer. It stipulated that federally funded education couldn't discriminate based on gender, which massively opened up competitive athletics for women. Throughout all this history, the danger of just sitting still became a recurring theme. Take the 15th century scholar and theologian Robert Burton. He issued this incredibly stark warning: idleness is the bane of body and mind. He didn't just see a lack of exercise as unhealthy, he saw it as a full-blown spiritual crisis. He warned that idleness caused melancholy, what we call depression today, and actually viewed it as one of the 7 deadly sins that would deliver total chaos to a person's life. And speaking of high stakes, movement has historically been tied to some incredibly intense cultural rituals. The ancient Mayans organized one of the very first team sports called the ball game. Players tried to get a ball through a hoop mounted roughly 23 feet high using only certain parts of their body. But this wasn't exactly your local friendly rec league. In some cases, the captain of the losing team was actually given as a human sacrifice to the winning team. They believed this was absolutely vital for the prosperity of their society. No pressure, right? It really just goes to show how deeply and intensely movement is rooted in human culture. Which brings us to Section 4, the mind-body connection, the philosophy of sweat. See, kinesiology isn't just about bones and muscles. It actually explores how we think about our bodies. For the longest time, the dominant philosophy was dualism, the idea that the mind and body are totally opposing separate entities. It basically suggests your brain makes a plan, and then your body just follows orders. But in kinesiology, this creates a real problem. In the 20th century, folks started pointing out that dualism just doesn't make sense for human movement. Instead, they champion holism. Holism views the mind and body as one entire integrated whole. Think about sports for a second. An athlete making a split-second decision on the field is using simultaneous cognitive and physical action. The mind and body aren't taking turns. They are acting together as one complete unit. So the crucial point is that this holistic philosophy directly translates into real-world action. If physical activity is vital for the whole person, while kinesiologists recognize a major ethical obligation to ensure everyone has access to it. It means pushing for fairness, respect, and inclusivity. It means recognizing that socioeconomic status, gender, or disability can be massive barriers to movement. And this leads to incredible community initiatives. Take play streets, for example, which transform urban roadways into safe, accessible spaces for free play, empowering folks in underserved areas to just get moving. And now for our final stop, Section 5, the future, esports, the digital frontier. We've talked about ancient Greek gymnasiums and Mayan ball games, but now we're looking at something completely different, the digital frontier. Esports are organized competitive video games, specifically designed with competition in mind. That intense, built-in competition is the defining feature that separates esports from just, playing a game for fun on your couch. And this is not just a fringe hobby anymore. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, has actually accepted esports as an official sporting activity because it requires intense strategy, teamwork, and insanely high-level cognitive and motor skills. It is actively challenging our traditional, purely physical definition of what athletics can be. And this brilliantly illustrates why kinesiology absolutely has to pay attention to this space. The data here is staggering. To put it into perspective, the esports industry has hit a value of over $1 billion, with a global audience of roughly 1.1 billion people. And perhaps the most telling stat for the future? 90% of kids in the US play electronic video games regularly. Colleges are adding varsity esports teams with full scholarships, and pro leagues like the NBA are creating their own electronic franchises. It is a massive, undeniable evolution in human recreation. So that brings us to our final thought today. From the survival instincts of our ancestors to the holistic connection of mind and body, all the way to the rise of competitive digital gaming, the study of human movement is undeniably vast. So I'll leave you with this. How do your daily movements, whether it's doing the dishes, walking to work, or even your screen time, fit into the grand scientific story of your own body? Really think about it the next time you move. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and stay curious.